Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Crafternoon with Camrose Public Library. I'm squooshing down a little bit because I need you guys to be able to see my tabletop for this one. This is a really cool project. I've done it a few times before and I always get a different result. Sometimes it's worse than others. So all you're going to need is some plain white paper, perhaps a ruler, a black marker, and some highlighters, different colored highlighters, 3 or 4 different colored highlighters. No fewer than 3 probably. You could use markers as well. So the first thing we need to do is trace our hand and wrist. You want to keep your hands or your fingers fairly close together. Oh, I'm going to take my rings off. And keeping your arm as straight as possible lined up at the bottom of the paper, you trace your hand. Once you have your hand traced, what we need to do is on another piece of white paper, use a ruler to make evenly spaced lines because we need this to go underneath our hand to provide a bit of a guideline. You can see there, you can see the black lines through, so use a Sharpie for that so you can see it through your paper. Now the first thing we're going to do is take a black Sharpie, and along these black lines, starting at the very bottom of our hand, we are going to draw a line. When we get to that pencil outline of our arm, we're going to bump it up a little bit and come back down to that straight line and continue all the way across to the edge of the paper. Can you see what I'm saying? I will do one more. So across the straight line, stop when you get to the pencil mark of where your hand is. Try to bump it up the same amount, back down to where your pencil line is, and continue along that same horizontal line. And you want to do that with every single one of these. I'm going to do one up top here where our fingers are because that's where it gets tricky. So where our fingers are, you have to bump up at every spot that's inside where you've traced your hand and go straight on every spot where it's not inside where you've traced your hand. So if I was doing this whole thing, there of course would be black lines all the way through. But can you see how I bumped up a little bit when I'm inside my handprint? So once you've got all of those lines full all the way through, going straight where there is no handprint and bumping up a little bit where there is a handprint, then we are going to take our Sharpies. Decide what order you want your colors to go in. I think I'm going to do orange, green, and blue for this one. Just underneath where you have done one of your lines, one of your black lines, you do the exact same thing with your Sharpie. Bumping up where your handprint is and going straight across where it isn't. And then you choose another color. You can do the same thing. You can overlap your colors a little bit so that you get a little bit more color variation. Bumping up where your handprint is and continuing straight across. And then blue. I'm just using 3 colors for this one. And you want to try to make sure that you get every portion of white covered. So you can see my orange, my green, and my blue. And we'll do the same thing up above here so I can show you how it works over top of the tricky fingers. This is a project that sometimes you need to do more than once for it to actually look like what it's supposed to look like. there's a bit of a learning curve to know how far to bump up and stuff like that, right? But once I get these lines done here, I'll show you what it's starting to look like. And then I'll show you one that I finished the other day. It's actually pretty super cool. Like I said, I've made a few of these over the years, and they turn out differently every time, but they're a lot of fun. And they can blow people's minds if they don't see how they're done. So I kind of like that about a craft too. They're like, whoa, trippy. See? Can you see how it's kind of starting to look a little bit 3D there? So you do that all the way through. Do all of the black lines first, and then you add your colored lines using those black lines as a guide for where they go. And you should end up with something like this. Trippy, hey? You can see where I messed up in a few places and had to use some whiteout to fix it. But you could do this with any sort of shape. If you want to practice before you do something as complex as a hand, you could try just doing a finger or tracing a marker onto a piece of paper so that you're just doing the one bump. And once you've got that side to side line drawing down with a more simple object, try your hand out. Thanks for joining me, guys, for Crafternoon. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care.